that is acknowledged then, so you get an acknowledgement of receipt on the date that it was submitted. So that is indeed being complied with.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. I think, and I'm going to test this, I think perhaps it's become clear in my head. The section that Commissioner Baloyi just referred you to deals with the submission of the exhibits to the FSL, and it prescribes a process that must be followed.
That's
and
correct.
It does prescribe that there must be a written request and the like. The question, I think, General, why can I say General? Commissioner Khumalo. Umpteenth time, I do apologize, Commissioner. The question that Commissioner Khumalo and I think were interested, the answer there to in, was relating to the request to FSL for storage, where FSL responds that it doesn't have storage capacity. So it's not the actual submission of the exhibits to.
Yes.
So then I'll take a step back. You remember in the morning when we started, I pointed out to your section of your statement, and I think General Musikiri also points out that when a request was made to FSL, it was rejected because FSL indicated that it was not a clean lab scenario. You recall that conversation?
That's correct, Commissioner.
And your view was that that rejection on that basis was correct because they ought not to have called FSL. It is LCRC they ought to have called. Articulate your answer, please, for the record.
You are correct.
Okay. So then we shouldn't confuse ourselves by seeking to find a formal written request to FSL for purposes of storage in circumstances where the exhibits were not being handed over to FSL. Would I be correct in that?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. I think I'm clarified.
Advocate Silo, my concern, General, is looking at how the exhibits were stored and how they were recorded and the shortcomings that Chair listed yesterday. Remember, he went up to 9. I think Advocate Baloyi Silo added 2 more. From where I'm sitting, and I could be wrong, but it looks to me like there was never an intention to submit these drugs to FSL. There was never an intention to have them tested because of how they were handled throughout and how they were recorded. It raises concerns to me that it doesn't seem like there was ever an intention that these drugs will go to storage in Pretoria or that they would be tested so that we can be 100% sure that it was cocaine, 541 kilograms of it. Because I cannot understand how there is no paperwork saying to FSL, at some point when you do have capacity, we would like you to take these drugs, we would like for them to be tested so that we can ascertain that this was indeed cocaine. And if there's a need for people to be arrested and prosecuted, that can be done. What is your comment on my observation? I'm not stating facts, I'm just stating an observation.
Commissioner Khumalo, you are 100% correct. I also referred to that yesterday in the same manner as you have summarized it now, that it's my strong view that there was never an intention to submit it to FSL. And that's why I'm reflecting now on all the other cases where predominantly the crime scenes were dealt with correctly and the exhibits found its way into an SAP-13, remained in an SAP-13 at the police station. It was never stolen or tampered with and then submitted to the FSL. Whether it was a year later, I think for purposes of this exercise, it's irrelevant. The fact of the matter is it was not stolen at the police stations and it arrived at the Forensic Science Laboratory intact.
Thank you, Commissioner Khumalo, and General Flynn. I think we're dealing with the matter at your paragraph 5, that incident that you said there was liaison with the British authorities and resulted in convictions in the UK. Are you in a position to comment about any prosecutions or convictions arising from that drug seizure of 8th May 2020 in South Africa? It's a yes or no. If you don't want to unpack, you don't have to. I just want to know what progress South Africa has made.
There was no prosecution up to date in South Africa, Commissioners.
No prosecution to date. Okay. I'll leave it there. I'll not probe any further. Getting back to your statement, if we look at your table, I think we are now at the third item, the 2021-02-23 matter, where under place and commodity you indicate Greenpoint. I'm correct, right? No, actually, we should be dealing with the 2020 August 11.
Yeah.
The cocaine burst of 20 kg. That's our next matter.
That's correct, Commissioner.
And you unpack that at your paragraph 6, so if you could take it from
correct.
there.
On 11 August 2020, members of the DPCI Durban Serious Organised Crime Investigation Unit followed up on information in relation to a container that was on the vessel Polonia that originated from the port of Santos in Brazil. The vessel was on anchorage before entering Durban Harbour. Upon further investigation, 20 kilogram bricks of suspected cocaine was recovered from the container. The cocaine had the Audi logo on the wrappings of 10 of the bricks. The other 10 bricks had no logo on. The crime scene was properly dealt with in terms of crime scene management principles. The exhibits were photographed and sealed in forensic evidence bags. The mass of the suspected cocaine was 20 kilograms. The exhibits were booked in at Durban Central SAPS under a reference number. Then the exhibits were submitted to FSL in Amanzimtoti on 1 September 2021. And then FSL confirmed that the exhibits were cocaine. And then the case was investigated under a certain reference number. And here, Commissioner, there's 2 cases where LCRC did not attend to the crime scene. But the investigators, and it's not clear what was the reason for the 2 incidents. It is then this case and the Manuchar case. LCRC did not attend to the scenes. But the investigators themselves complied with directives by having contemporaneous notes, by taking photos of the exhibits, and properly securing it by sealing the exhibits there and then where it was recovered from the container.
Before you move off that point, is it your testimony that it is imperative at all these seizure scenes that the LCRC be present, or it is not necessarily a requirement? What is the actual position?
It is very important, Commissioners, especially when it comes to the prospects of lifting fingerprints and touch DNA, which cannot be performed by an investigator. Although an investigator can take photos, compile it into a photo album, and ensure that the chain of custody is maintained and the integrity of the investigation is upheld by properly sealing the exhibits in exhibit bags. Investigators are not capable of performing that 2 very important aspects.
And in this case, I think you specifically pointed out that the risk of non-attendance or attendant on the LCRC not attending the scene was somehow ameliorated by the actions of the investigators themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, some of the tasks were performed, Commissioners, as I've indicated. But the reason why the investigators moved in here and conducted the investigations was that they had to beat the criminals to the vessel, and specifically the container. So there is an acceptable explanation for what transpired here. It's not clear in the Manuchar matter why Colonel Sabia did not summons LCRC to that matter. But in this matter, and I have the detail of the matter, which I prefer not to disclose
No, please don't.
to the Commission, I'm satisfied that there was no wrongdoing on the part of the investigators in relation to this seizure of the 20 kilograms from the vessel.
I don't know if the commissioners have caught on the DPCI language. There is this case you keep, is it Manucha? Is that our Port Shepstone matter, the Durban seizure of 22 June 2022?
No.
Okay.
The Manuchar seizure is a complete separate and non-related matter,
Okay,
Commissioners.
I'm clarified. Then my question is, in the Port Shepstone matter, the one that we've been dealing with, the LCRC did not attend the scene. Do you have an understanding of why that happened? Why the LCRC did not attend the scene at the harbour during the seizure of the Port Shepstone?
It's because they were not summoned, Commissioners.
They were simply not summoned.
That's correct. Colonel Jacob indicated that he called Forensic Science Laboratory. But there was no indication that he ever requested the presence of the LCRC. And that was the important section to be present at that incident.
And when you deal with this case, you do point out that LCRC as well did not attend, and you gave explanation for why that was the case. But you went further than to say the failure to call LCRC in this particular instance was addressed by the steps that the investigators on the scene took. Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Now, if I contrast that with the Port Shepstone matter, where similar steps taken from the records that you have been able to go through, were similar steps taken by the investigators to cover for the absence of the LCRC on site?
By no means, Commissioners. There was just a few photos taken of the exhibits there at the police station at Isipingo, few photos of the exhibits in the container, and shoddy work, to say the least. It was as if the investigators were in a hurry.
And lastly, I think you made the comment that you understood why the LCRC was not called to the scene on the day in respect of this seizure we're talking about. And if I heard you correctly, you said they were trying to beat the criminals to the container. Did I understand you correctly?
That's correct, Commissioner.
So there was a level of urgency in that case.
Indeed.
Did the same level of urgency attach to the what I'll call the Port Shepstone seizure?
No, Commissioners.
Thank you.
But at least it sounds like at best you would say that no agency has been claimed for the absence of the LCRC in Port Shepstone.
Well, Commissioners, as explained by Colonel Jacob, he indicated that the scene became busy with the perhaps individuals arriving at the warehouse yard. But I also explained that that's a controlled environment already per se, as it's a warehouse. And it could have been easily contained where an outside perimeter and inside perimeter could have been deployed. And they could have decided how big that perimeter needed to be in order for them to properly deal with the scene. I also said that there was no need to transfer the crime scene or the exhibits seized from the crime scene to Isipingu before all the necessary investigations were done at the container.
I guess importantly, really, the question is, has Colonel Jacob anywhere stated or given a reason why the LCRC was not called? We know he called the FSL, that's what the records show, or what is alleged, but he hasn't said anything about, or has he said anything about why the LCRC was not called?
I'm not aware of the detail in relation to that aspect, Commissioner Baloy.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Commissioner. General, I think then we are ready to turn to your case number 4, which you deal with from your paragraph 7.
On 23 February 2021, members of the DPCI Durban SOCI followed up on information in relation to a container that was at Green Africa Container Yard. SARS Customs detected narcotics during a search of the container where 495 packages, and it was in total 9.9 kilogram, containing methamphetamine was seized from where it was hidden in the cargo in the container. The crime scene was properly dealt with in terms of crime scene management principles. The exhibits were photographed and sealed in forensic evidence bags. The exhibits were booked in at Brighton Beach SAPS under a reference number, and the exhibits were submitted to FSL in Amanzimtoti on 19 April 2021. FSL confirmed that the exhibits were methamphetamine. The case was investigated under a Durban reference number.
Noted. Is there anything you would like to highlight there in particular?
No, this is just the last matter, Commissioners, that was submitted to FSL in Amanzimtoti. As I said, that's the smaller seizures, the 9.9 kilograms, the 20 kilograms of cocaine and the 35 kilograms of cocaine was submitted to Amanzimtoti due to the capacity aspects.
And I note that on the point you just made, at your paragraphs 8, 9, and at 8 and 9, you deal with 2 other seizures, and these were submitted to a different FSL. Am I correct?
Just a quick one. If I'm not mistaken, General, you said that the referral to the FSL should be immediate.
Within 7 days.
Within 7 days.
Obviously.
Oh, yes.
No, sorry, Commissioner.
Oh, I'm saying I'm looking here at 23 February and a referral on the 19th of April, almost 2 months later.
Yeah, indeed, it's non-compliance with the protocol, Commissioner, but I'm not in a position to comment on the reasons for that.
Yes, all right.
But I think what's important, and that's the point that we want to drive home, is that
there was a referral.
There was indeed a referral, although it has fallen outside the 7-day period, but the exhibits arrived at FSL intact, accepted, analyzed, and we received a report.
Except that perhaps the longer the period before the referral, the more the possibility of something going wrong with the exhibits, either them missing, being tampered with, or whatever else.
You are correct, Commissioner. The risk obviously remains,
yes,
that there might be tampering with the exhibits. It's indeed true.
Thank you, General.
Thank you, Chair. Then, General, we turn our attention to your paragraph 8 at page 4.
On 30 July 2021, members of the DPCI Durban followed up on information relating to the possible smuggling of narcotics concealed in a shipping containers destined for a major truck assembly plant in Gauteng, Scania. When the container doors were opened, the officers noticed black bags inside the container. As the officers suspected it to be bags of cocaine, they halted the process until LCRC arrived. And this is the matter I spoke to yesterday as well, Commissioners. There was proper crime scene management as the scene was investigated for fingerprints, DNA, and photographed. A duplicate seal was recovered from the container. 29 bags, each wrapped in black tape with carry handles exposed, were recovered. 999 bricks of cocaine were recovered from the bags. The mass of the cocaine was approximately 1,000 kilograms. The narcotics were transported to Maiden Wharf SAPS, where they were booked into the SAP-13. It's alleged that the suspected cocaine could not be submitted to FSL as they did not have enough space in their vaults. The exhibits were accepted by FSL in Pretoria on 12 November 2021, after the burglary and theft of the 541 kilograms of cocaine at Port Shepstone.
So is your paragraph suggesting that some good came out of the theft of the cocaine at Port Shepstone? Because then this seizure could be accommodated at FSL in Silverton.
Well, very shortly after the burglary was detected, Commissioner, I believe that my counterparts at Forensic Science made the means to accommodate this major seizure, and then it was submitted.
And this was 1,000 kilograms, about twice the size of the Port Shepstone seizure.
That's correct, Commissioners.
That's it. Thank you. You may proceed.
On the 16th of February 2022,